We don't have an intro to this podcast. Maybe we'll have one later.
And we're back.
Yeah, we're
Film Crew
back
is back for another episode.
of
But guess
Film
what?
Crew podcast.
It-
Yeah. Hello, my
It's a
name's
short
Quan.
episode.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm Gasper.
We got things to do, so we're not really.
You're actually what? You're going on a camping trip today, right?
Oh yeah,
How long is that going to be?
about 4 days, I think, 3 or 4 days. So
Nice.
it'll be nice to get out because I haven't been out in like a while. So
Sounds fun.
It's hard to think when all I'm seeing is like a white wall every day.
Yeah.
It gets monotonous. So hopefully this will help a little.
Clear up your mind.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
Yeah.
But for me, I guess I'm staying home this weekend. Just like the past few weekends.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's
Wednesday.
If
you guys are HBO Max subscribers, what is it? Godzilla versus Kong?
Yeah.
Is being released on Wednesday.
It is.
That's a big movie.
That's a very big movie.
Another big movie that was I finally got its official trailer. And it's also a red band trailer because it's going to be a rated R film. Is The Suicide Squad.
Compared to what? Suicide Squad?
Yeah, just Suicide Squad.
So
back in 2016,
so it's
DC and Warner Brothers decided to make a movie about the Suicide Squad, but it was titled Suicide Squad back then. And yeah, I mean,
the sequel is The Suicide Squad.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you got maybe 4 or 5 actresses from the first movie.
Right.
But it seems like it's going to be more of a reboot than a sequel. But it's a soft reboot because the same actors and actresses are playing the same characters. But it's a totally different story.
I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Actually, no, it's the same story where a group of villains, because they're not even superheroes, they're villains, are teamed up to go do a mission that's like suicidal, hence the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And yeah, they get a device in their head that if they don't follow the mission because they're criminals, and if they decide to leave the mission or whatnot, their head is gonna get blown off from that device. So it's kind of like they have to do it. But yeah, so a soft reboot directed by James Gunn, released in August. So trailer was really cool.
Not a DC fan, so I wouldn't know. I do know about the head blow off thingy, but
I would say this is gonna be like DC's Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's gonna be like a total, very different than what DC has been releasing.
Right.
And it's also going to be directed by James Gunn, who also directed Guardians of the Galaxy.
All right.
But I guess my question for you, Quan, is what do you feel about reboots?
Usually sucks, doesn't it?
Necessary at times or not?
Doesn't it usually like suck?
Yeah, so I mean, now that we're getting to a point where it seems like Hollywood is just rehashing a lot of stories from before.
Yeah.
Are reboots good? For the most part, I say it's like a 50-50.
Right. But
Uh,
but here's the thing. That's I could see that happening because Hollywood's main goal is to make money, is to make
right.
profit. At this point, and it's nothing bad.
Hmm.
It's just how Hollywood is now,
Yeah.
is to make money. So I guess for them it is necessary. I don't know if the Suicide Squad is necessary since it's only been like 5 years since they made
Yeah.
Suicide Squad, and I don't even know if that was good. Unless
It was
there's
okay. It wasn't as good as it was promoted to be. But I feel like this movie is gonna. It might be, in my opinion, DC's best film that's been released.
okay.
Um, but I mean, do you prefer reboots or do you prefer spin-offs?
Spin-offs.
So yeah, for example, I mean, I believe Hulu is in talks of making a Middle Earth spin-off about
Oh,
Aragorn and like the young Aragorn.
right.
And just for you people who don't know
Yeah.
who Aragorn is, it's pretty much a main character from Lord of the Rings.
Right.
So, do you feel like that's necessary? I mean,
It
is that better than trying to reboot Lord of the Rings right now?
Well, I think the Lord of the Rings lore is really immersive and like it's like really big. Like the actual like the movies only like cover like a tiny part of Tolkien's universe. So I think
Right.
a spin-off is good because it'll expand like fans who are into the movie but not into like the books. I think that'll like it'll bring them into loop of the universe a little bit more. Um, I don't think a reboot is necessary for Lord of the Rings. That'll blatantly show Hollywood's like desire to make money to a point where it's dumb. Kind of like the Suicide Squad. I think it's dumb. I'm not gonna lie. Not,
um, but let's see. I'm trying to find an example. Okay, so my favorite movie, The Thing,
right.
is technically, or it is. It's a reboot. It's a retelling of a 50s movie. I want to say it's called The Thing from Space,
Mm,
something like that. And that was really good. I mean, to go from a movie from the 50s to the 80s, so a 30-year span, and make a movie like The Thing, which is like so highly praised by sci-fi fans, horror fans, and
right.
just movie fans. um that I mean, that's one example where a reboot can work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know back in 2012, I believe, they made a movie titled The Thing, which is supposed to be a prequel to the 80s The Thing, and that didn't work.
I can tell you
So
why. What was the '80s movie called? Was it just
the
Thing?
80s movie was just called The Thing.
The Thing? And what's the 2012? What
The
was
Thing.
the Thing? Why? Why did they do this?
So, I
Insane.
mean,
The same movie title. Why is that a thing?
like, honestly, I don't have an answer for that. I don't know why they would title it the same title when it's not, when it's a prequel, and it's kind of like a soft reboot. Like, I could see, for some, like, somehow they can use that as a soft reboot and
Yeah.
then retell the original story as a sequel. And have they done that before? Is another good question. Has there ever been a movie where they make a prequel after the original and then make a sequel making it a retelling of the original movie?
This hurts my head.
I'm trying to think. And I don't think there I mean there's the Evil Dead trilogy. The
Right.
Evil Dead trilogy kind of what it does is there's the first Evil Dead movie, then there's the second one which kind of does like a soft reboot in itself and then
Right.
continues the story where the first one leaves off by retelling the story, and then the third movie is a sequel to the second movie.
That makes no sense. Is it Evil Dead 1, 2, and 3? Or do they call it Evil
Yeah,
Dead, Dead
they call
Evil,
it
Evil the
they call
Dead?
it they call it so the trilogy is Evil Dead 2, and then Army of Darkness.
Why? 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 Why can't they just call it Evil
which
Dead 3?
which they also did a reboot of the original movie in 2014 called Evil Dead. And that was actually a really good film. So that's another, I mean, maybe horror could possibly be one of the examples where reboots work because, you know, it's not trying to take any credit away from filmmakers in
Yeah.
horror, but it might be easier to rehash the story of a horror movie than I think anything else.
Well,
Any other genre.
I'm gonna give the thing a pass on the reboot because it is 30 years, not 5 years like Suicide Squad.
Right, yeah. Um Also, like another example, I mean, I know I'm sticking to horror a lot, but like Friday the 13th and um Nightmare on Elm Street also did it, and Halloween also did reboots where they all kind of worked. I mean, I I feel like that's too small of a topic at that point because like I said, I think horror is kind of is an easier it's an
Right.
easy way out to do a reboot.
Right.
But like for example, like Lord of the Rings, I don't think that a reboot can ever happen with
Right.
Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings. Just because those movies are so good. I think we just hit 20 years for the first Fellowship of the Ring.
Is it 20 years?
2001? It might be 20 years since since Fellowship of the Ring. I
Jesus.
mean,
So
so
it next year, the Fellowship of the Ring is legally allowed to drink. Right now, the Fellowship of the Rings legally allowed to drink in Europe. That's, oh man.
I'll, I'll tell you right now when it was released. Yeah, 2001. So 2001, the Fellowship of the Ring was released. So it's been 20 years, and yet there hasn't been any talk about trying to reboot, Lord of the Rings.
There's no need to. At the end of the day,
There's no need in my yeah. I have the same opinion as you, but at the same time, you know, do you feel like prequels could also be a reboot in some way? So, for example, like how The Hobbit was like because The Hobbit should have been introduced first as a movie,
you're right.
which it was in animation in the 80s or something like that. But do you feel like The Hobbit could have been, you know, had a solid fan base if it was released before Lord of the Rings? Or do you think the success of Lord of the Rings decide made Hollywood decide to make a Hobbit movie like because of the success?
I don't know. I feel like I don't know, honestly. I think it might have been the success because Lord of the Rings was has a big audience, so I think people got excited for the Hobbit. Um,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, just also like Game of Thrones, you know. Game of
Oh,
Thrones, you know, they're they're doing a spin-off as well, and you know, telling giving us a prequel of, you know,
who's
of what
directing
happened
it?
before.
Who's
I
directing
don't
it?
know. I don't know. What is their title, or what is their acronym? D&D?
Yeah, not the Dungeons and Dragons, Dumb and Dumber. We're not gonna bring up Dungeons and Dragons if that's actually good. Dumb and Dumber is also pretty good too, but they're just dumb.
All right, so just really quick, does you being a fan of Lord of the Rings,
Okay,
does the name Estel make any sense to you?
I didn't. No, I don't really. I'm not really immersed in Lord of the Rings. I used to be.
Hmm.
But no, it
So it seems like that's going to be the name of the, or that's the going to be the title of the Aragorn spinoff. And here's a plot from IMDb. The film is set in Middle Earth after the events of The Hobbit. Aragorn, a young man
right,
prophesied to be the future king of Gondor, is growing up in an elvish household. He is set on a quest by the head elf Elrond to discover himself and his place in the world.
right. That still might be the name of the house, but
Okay.
I don't know. There's like it's so the universe is so big that it could probably take years. I'm looking it up right now because I don't recognize it.
I mean, that sounds like a really cool TV show. No, sounds like a an action adventure TV show, and you know, me being somewhat of a fan of Lord of the Rings, taking place after The Hobbit, in
Right.
between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, sounds pretty cool. A young
That's
Aragorn trying to, you know, going on a quest to figure out himself.
right. That's the name. That's Aragorn's name that his mother gave him. I just looked it up.
Oh,
But we gotta keep in mind, like they can make prequels out of the ass for Lord of the Rings because that's
yeah,
the third age, and there's like a giant second age and a first age and a age of trees or some shit like that. Um,
right.
so yeah, that's that's a lot
So,
of potential.
so you being a fan of Lord of the Rings, you don't see them ever trying to do a reboot,
They better not.
or do you think Hollywood's greed might do so maybe like in 50 years?
I hope they don't. I don't think they need
I
to.
think Chris Evans recently said that Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
is Iron Man. There's no trying to like, you know, make a new Iron Man
Yeah.
like ever. And the fan base is like, you know, with him for sure. Like Robert Downey Jr. did amazing for
Yeah.
what, the 10 years that he was Iron Man. But can you see Disney and Marvel in, 20 years trying to reboot the MCU and,
No,
try and make a new Iron Man.
no, because
Because I
even
mean, Disney's known for that. Disney, I mean, look at what they're trying to do with all the animation classics. They're rebooting them to live action.
that I'm gonna give them a pass on that because it is live action. I don't think they're gonna do it for Marvel because Marvel is also really big. Because you have like the multiverse and all the other
Right.
potential heroes, superhero potential stuff. There's a lot of movies that could potentially be made. So if they are going to reboot, it's definitely not going to be 20 years from now.
Got it. Do you see, bringing up the multiverse, do you see alternate realities being a reboot as well?
Or
In general,
in
like
general,
any story that has like a multiverse or alternate realities, do you see, or and like how the main timeline kind of like merges with an alternate,
it
so
would
like
make
just
sense.
like two,
That's
can you see that being a reboot,
we're
um like Rick and Morty,
yeah, we're
like
getting
how Rick and Morty kind of they
super
kind of like
philosophical right now because you think about
well,
like
I mean, I know this was supposed to be a short episode just because, you have a time limit and I have somewhat of a time limit. So why don't we continue this next episode on a full episode and see how far we get, because I
all right,
know we're going down a rabbit hole that we probably won't be able to climb back up
yeah.
from.
All I know is it got really philosophical. You think about like Deadpool, and he kind of breaks the fourth wall in the comic books. So it would make sense
Right.
if like even that is its own universe that we don't know about. It's like a parallel universe in some other fuck that
So so yeah, we today was somewhat of a different day for us
yeah,
to make this episode, just
because
having the time limit.
we're gonna talk about
And
the greatest book to movie adaptation fingersmiths ever.
yeah, and that was my bad for not watching it. Totally forgot about that one. Um, so yeah, I forgot what where I was going with this, but yeah. So it's a totally different episode. We decided to just do an intro to reboots, and yeah, so we didn't even have a title for this. We don't have really anything. So at this point, I think we're just gonna call it Introduction to Reboots and the Multiverse.
Right. Philosophical.
And next episode, yeah, next episode we're gonna hopefully try and get into it a little bit more, because it seems like we're really into this one.
Right.
But any case,
Stuff here. Channels here. Channels here. Instagram there. I'm not even gonna talk about Twitter anymore just because we don't I don't want to be on
yeah, we're
Twitter.
probably gonna kill off Twitter and
Yeah.
really focus on Instagram a lot
Yeah.
more. Um,
Stuff here.
Also, you know, if you're watching us and you're seeing him point everywhere, uh, somewhere here we have a link to our videos, and we have a couple skits on there.
Right.
And, hopefully from this point on, we'll be uploading more. And, so keep an eye out for those. And, yeah.
Make
So
sure to
hopefully we
like
get
and
more.
subscribe. And if you didn't like it, the video, make sure, or the podcast, make sure to let us know.
Please. And, yeah, as of with that, I think we're done.
All right. We'll see you
So
all.
once again, I'm Gasper.
And I'm not. And we'll see you all next time.
We also don't have an outro either. We'll probably have one soon.